Welcome. I'm Halise Lieberman, Director of the Toby Center for Jewish Life and Learning, and I'm delighted that you've joined us. Tonight we are celebrating the 20th annual Warsaw Jewish Film Festival, and unfortunately our colleague, the director, cannot be with us, but I would like to say how proud we are for 20 years of bringing excellent, provocative films to Warsaw and to many audiences, and now audiences on the internet. The Toby Center was very honored to host one of the film evenings, the film screenings, and actually it was with one of the filmmakers that we will meet and talk with this evening. As usual, and for those of you who are new, we're very happy to have you. If you have any questions or comments that you'd like to share with our guests, please put them in the comment section, and we will try to address some of them at the end of our conversation. So it is without further ado, I'm very happy and proud to welcome Oren Rudovsky, who will moderate our session. Oren, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. So pleased to be here. And I know you're going to tell everybody at the end of this how we met each other many years ago. So I won't go into that. But I'm really thrilled to be able to be here to moderate this and to meet our three filmmakers who you will meet soon: Evo Gronkowski, Sharon Rebo Khan, and Roman Shumanov. And forgive me for any mispronunciations there. So today we're going to talk about how I and these three wonderfully talented and in many cases prolific filmmakers have been doing their work over the years, and how Jewish themes have made it into their work. Not all the filmmakers are Jewish, but all the filmmakers have worked on Jewish themes, including myself. I've been making films. Well, I was making films in high school. I won't name a year because it's too far back. But making films since high school, and I never actually. I was interested in social issue films, and never thought I would be making a lot of films on Jewish topics, even though I come from a family where my mother emigrated from Poland right before the war in 1939, and moved to Brooklyn, New York, where she met my father, who was from a deeply Zionist, Hebrew-oriented family, and then became a rabbi, as did his two brothers. So I come by Jewish filmmaking honestly through my family, and actually one of my first documentaries was made in Poland. It's a film called Spark Among the Ashes, which recounts the story of an American boy who was invited through his rabbi to come to Krakow to celebrate the bar mitzvah in 1985. It was front page news, and in the New York Times, it was touted as the first bar mitzvah since before the war. But any of you who know Polish history know that that wasn't the case. But certainly the first public bar mitzvah probably since 1968 or 9, when there were anti-Jewish movements in Poland, and a lot of Jews left Poland for Sweden, the United States, Israel, and other places. Anyway, that was an exploration of Jewish life in Krakow, but also a celebration of Jewish life in America, because it was led by am I going on too long about this film? I like it so much, and it's my first foray into Poland. But anyway, be that as it may, it focused on an American female rabbi and an American Orthodox rabbi who tried to stop this bar mitzvah from happening. Anyway, it's a great story. and then on and on. I made films about the Hasidim, A Life Apart, another film in Poland called Hiding and Seeking, and I worked with Yael Strom as a collaborator and DP on his film The Last Klezmer, and and there are more, but that's a little bit of my own history.
So, Oren, thank you for this introduction. We know there's much more to learn about you through your films and your illustrious biography, all of your work. So we're looking forward to having this conversation among, as you say, these prolific filmmakers. One finds herself in Sydney this morning, or her morning, and we're delighted that she is here with us. One was born in Georgia and made Aliyah, moved to Israel, and one is a Polish filmmaker born in Poland who now does work in London and Warsaw. And so we're really excited to introduce all of you to our guests.
Terrific.
Oren, I leave the mic to you.
Okay, I will do my best, and there's Roman as well. So we're all here. Roman, we can't see you, but we can see your square. Thank you. So first of all, thank you, Roman. Thank you, Evo. Thank you, Sharon, and thank you, Halise, for making and the Jewish Film Festival and the Taube Center for making this all possible. And what we'll do is I'll start by asking each of you separately to both introduce yourselves and tell us why you think you're here with us, and then we'll talk about filmmaking and Jewish filmmaking and documentaries and fiction, and please feel free to talk about any specific idea or project that is closest to your heart right now. But I'll start with Evo. We had a chance to talk the other day, and so please, if you don't mind, just tell me a little bit about your own film biography, if you'd like, and also tell me what you're trying to work on right now.
Hi, Oren, and hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. My name is Evo Gronkowski, and I am a filmmaker working and living in London and in Warsaw. Not that it matters that much, but I was actually not born in Poland, but in the United States. Probably better if, it was better if the IRS didn't hear that. But I think I am here tonight with you because of a short documentary film that I made 12 years ago now, called 8 Stories That Haven't Changed the World. And it is a film that speaks about the childhood and the very first memories of the survivors who remained in Poland, either returned or remained or miraculously survived during World War II. And so when a dear friend of mine, whom I met at the Lauder Morasha Jewish Elementary School in Poland, came to me with this idea 12 years ago saying, listen, I think it's the last time, final call, to speak with our grandfathers and grandmothers who survived the war, but ask them questions that they've never actually been asked before. They've spent their entire lives giving important accounts about the Holocaust, but no one ever asked them about their pre-war memories, about their first tastes, first loves, first books, first friendships. He was spot on. We assembled a group of young Jewish youth. Me, myself, being not Jewish, but being a graduate of this Jewish elementary school, I always felt that being close to Jewish motifs is something that I am just naturally interested in. And maybe even as a non-Jewish filmmaker, I felt an even bigger responsibility as a filmmaker to tackle such a subject and to commit to it. And that's what we did. So we drove around Poland in a van, a bunch of kids, and we visited these people, and it was absolutely an extraordinary human experience at first, and then an almost surprising film success as we traveled around the world with this movie. And yet again had the chance to meet many viewers who remembered either those times that we mentioned or knew those stories from their family members. So yes, I think this is me. I am currently working on both documentaries and fiction, and I'm still ahead of my feature film debut. Contrary to you, my fantastic fellow filmmakers, whom I'm meeting for the first time actually tonight and today. So thanks for having me.
Evo, let me just first of all, I've had an opportunity to see not all of the film, but I really loved your intermixing of the incredible archival films that you found, and I also just loved your style of, you know, relatively informal style of filming these wonderful characters who were clearly very pleased to meet you and to participate in the film. And I'm just wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about that film. First of all, the title, 8 Stories That Haven't Changed the World. Could you tell us how you came up with that title, and then how the style of the film evolved from what you started with and what the film became? And one more question, I'm throwing a lot at you, but is, as a non-Jewish filmmaker, did it make a difference to these people that you were making the film?
Maybe I'll start with the first question. The title came from Jan Śpiewak, this friend of mine who had the original idea of doing this. And it was one of those rare cases, you know, usually you brainstorm titles, sometimes you struggle, sometimes you wait for the film to tell you, you know, and it can take forever, almost until the very last moment when you lock the movie. But this time it was just like we were bouncing some ideas, and suddenly he just called me out of nowhere, you know, saying, "I think I got the title." And when he said it, I immediately knew that was it. So obviously it's you know, playing with the fact that we usually want to concentrate on stories that change the world, you know, and we want to concentrate on people who change the world. And but I think actually, you know, it's the beauty of humanity that in a way every story and every person in a way changes the world with their existence. And since we interviewed actually 16 elderly Polish Jews, we unfortunately had to do, you know, one of the toughest things that a documentary filmmaker has to do, is just to cut some of them. And so we kept 8, and we were left with 8. And I think the title was also aiming at the mundane yet very human and universal aspect of one's life, and that is this sort of origin that later builds you, which are the memories and the experiences of childhood. And in this particular case, a play with words, and the fact that these characters have been affected by something that probably changes the world and one's life as nothing else, which is war and the trauma and tragedy of it. And so we wanted to concentrate on something that in theory doesn't change your world that much, but actually it was the purpose of our film. And so that was the origin of this title. And the second question, I'm not sure if I remember. Oren, if you could help me.
Well, one of my questions was about whether being Jewish changed how whether that was in any way an issue for the characters in the film. And I did have a third question, maybe about, but I have a whole list of questions, but maybe about how your concept of the film changed as you went it. But you answer one, or answer what you like.
Yeah, I'll be brief because I really also want to hear from
we
Sharon and Roman.
But
first of all, as a non-Jewish filmmaker tackling a Jewish subject, I made sure I had a lot of Jewish friends around me. Right? I made sure this was thoroughly researched, discussed, and approached in the most sensitive way. Obviously, one of the things that we had to immediately sort of address is the fact that some viewers might be saying, but how can you even talk about these people without ever mentioning Shoah, which was actually what we did. And we quickly agreed, along with my friends from the Polish Jewish Youth Organization, that art needs to be able to be free in the sense that you need to be able to create elements, knowing that they will be just an element in the whole picture, in the whole discussion. And so we wanted really to give the space for those memories and cherish the lives of these people. And I sort of moved to say that obviously when you are a young person visiting very often very lonely old people, the last question they want to ask is, are you also Jewish? I think this was completely, in that sense, when we met with them, completely irrelevant. They were just like extremely happy to see us, to talk to us about things that sometimes they told us they've never thought about it for 50 or 60 years. And then finally, the bits of old Polish cinema that you mentioned, it was an idea to sometimes illustrate, sometimes rhyme, sometimes contradict the certain motifs that these characters were talking about, with fantastic scenes from these black and white movies from the 20s and 30s. As many of you know, many Polish Jewish filmmakers, before running away from Poland and setting up Hollywood in America, they were actually creating cinema in Poland. And so actually the vast majority of Polish cinema, pre-war Polish cinema, was written, directed, acted by Polish Jews. And so we were extremely excited to fetch these archival movies from the Polish Cinematheque, which was very collaborative and actually sold us these licenses for very little money, because it was, a micro budget, almost half amateur, half professional film. And that's how the form came to be, along with this questionnaire that we wrote, sort of inspired by the various questionnaires that exist. I was personally inspired by, James Lipton and the Actors Studio, who always ask these 10 questions to all the actors. So we kind of were inspired by that. Yeah.
Oh, Okay, we'll come back to that. That's interesting, and I think also just the question of how one uses archives, because I thought your use of archival footage in that film was really lovely, and as important as the interviews themselves in a way, which isn't to take away from the wonderful interviews. Okay, Sharon Reba Khan, please tell. I just had a chance to see a trailer for your film, which looked terrific, for your film Displaced. But tell me what you would like to tell us about yourself, how you became a filmmaker, and and whether you consider yourself a Jewish filmmaker, or how Jewish filmmaking intersects with your work, and whatever else, whatever else you want to tell us about Australia.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Well, I'm going to start with what I identify with. So I would say that I'm as much Jewish as I'm as Jewish as I'm a woman, and I think that's quite important, especially when I look who I'm surrounded with. So I think that's important because that identifies me just as much. And yeah, so I'm a French-Israeli filmmaker. Um, and I was actually born and raised in Germany. For those of you in Poland, ryba means fish in Polish. So yes, my origins are definitely Polish. Part of my film Displays deals with that question of where my family's from, but ultimately what the film deals with is the question, how does it feel to be a third generation of Holocaust survivors living in Germany, going through three generations? Yeah, Displaced is actually the second film of what I would call a trilogy. My first film being Recognition, which deals again with, well, with the Palestinian-Israeli conflict from the perspective of three women. My story being sort of the frame of this whole thing, why these women came together in one film. But there too, I deal with the question of identity. And now the last film that I'm still trying to get finished and financed is called Love Till 120, and I very much relate to what Evo spoke about, because one of the reasons why I'm making this film and fighting to finish this film is well, that there's sort of a stigma around Shoah survivors, Holocaust survivors, that they're often being reduced to only being Holocaust survivors, especially now that, we've been speaking about the last ones are around and it's been going on. This is an ongoing question. And there I deal with the question, ultimately, what does love mean in the life of these women, but, also as being older women. So it's also very much a film about aging. Yeah, but that film isn't finished. So yeah. And that's going to be the third one of a trilogy. After that, to answer your question, Oren, I will be slightly moving away from Jewish identity. The next film that I'm now developing, that the working title is called Berlin's, my God, the title is in Berlin's Tanzende Kriegerinnen, Berlin's Dancing Warriors. Excuse me, the title was in German. Yeah, so this is going to be a film about dancers and a Syrian-Israeli collaboration, but I won't say anything more to that. But yes, moving away from the question of Jewish filmmaking in that sense, because this won't have anything to do with that.
And tell me a little bit about how you got into filmmaking in the first place, or why you were drawn
Right.
to filmmaking, and did that revolve around being a woman, as you say, is crucial definition, and Jewish is another one, and certainly growing up in Germany, I'm sure affected you greatly.
Right. So essentially, I didn't know when I was 18. I was actually living back then in Jerusalem. I didn't know whether I wanted to be an actress or a politician. The idea was very simple. I wanted to change the world. I was slash am a very idealistic person, and I believe that films should, especially documentary films, contribute something to the world being a better place. That's in short. And essentially, I tried to go for an acting career, which led me to Paris, then to New York. Um, and actually, very quickly, I realized that what I wanted to do was direct. I directed in acting school my first theater piece in New York City. Um, and that is a very long journey, which we don't have time to go to, but that led to me studying a few more things. I've, accumulated a lot of degrees over the years. And one of them led to me doing a master's in visual anthropology. And the only reason I did that master's degree, literally, was because it said in the description at the end, you will be doing a film and it will be screened in a cinema. And then I was like, okay, this is it. So this was the beginning. My graduation thesis essentially was my thesis film was then actually the heart of Recognition, my first film, which I did in guerrilla style filmmaking, crowdfunding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But being lucky enough that part of the film was shot by my camera teacher in the master's degree. So I was pretty lucky with that. And long story short, this ended up going to festivals as well as it did. It did it 20 festivals worldwide. It, screened in a cinema in Germany. And then with that, I applied to Film University Babelsberg, which was because I said, I will not make another film under those circumstances. Guerrilla style filmmaking, no way. So yeah, so this is what led to Displaced and to 3 other short films. And well, now it's a whole other story because it's been 5 years since that whole process.
I don't know if this is true for Roman or Evo, but I've said guerrilla filmmaking, no way ever again, now about 8 times. So and then you get an idea and nobody's giving you a penny and you have to shoot tomorrow, and there you are back again doing what you swore you would never do. So but there are filmmakers who avoid that, and I don't know if Roman, you are perhaps one of the filmmakers who has avoided going back to guerrilla filmmaking or not. But please tell us about your own journey to becoming the filmmaker you are. And in the last 4 years, I count so much work that you've done just in the last 4 or 5 years, and that's through COVID and all the rest of the world's ills. So please tell us what drives and motivates you, and when you started this journey.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Actually, if you're talking about guerrilla, so in Israel at least, even if you have a big budget, that in Israel called big budget, you still shooting guerrilla style everything every time. So because yeah, in Israel budgets it's not so big. For documentary, especially for documentary. So we are on guerrilla every project. So yeah.
So tell us how you started on this journey.
Yeah, the last few years there were really with a lot of projects, and I have a really big passion to make cinema. I don't know, it's something like a big fire inside of me, and when I actually it came from when I finished my school at the college It's Sapir College in south of Israel. I made graduated film, 35 minutes, about new immigrants in Israel, young immigrants in Israel that came by the same program as I came, and I came to Israel when I was 17. So it was very successful film that won a lot of festivals around the world, and I realized that I can that I want to say a lot of things with my films, and I have the opportunity, and I'm really wanted to do it. And actually, I started my guerrilla films with a small budget, but I have a big passion to tell the story. And after it, I tell the story of me, of my friends, of people that I have worried about them, and immigrants. And my first few projects was talking only about it. And after it, I came to different projects, but actually, I think that all of my projects, almost all of my projects, that I really have something personal to them, and maybe this is the reason that it was so much project in the last time. And only now I feel that I'm okay. I can make cinema, maybe just for fun, even that I just said everything I wanted to say for now, and it's not something like every time I have the directors and creators have something to say, even they make comedy, but yeah. And I have half of my project are documentary and half of them fiction movies, and I really like both of genres. And my last few projects is a mix of two genres. It's first of all I make fiction and documentary, and fiction and documentary, and after it I'm just made docudrama and mixed the genres. And really me and I have my friend. He's a producer, and we made a lot of projects together. And he live in the same kibbutz. I live in kibbutz in Israel, and he live in the same kibbutz and neighbor. And we start to make docudrama, and it was like the first docudrama in Israel when we came to found and TV channel. They said with our first project, it was 5 years ago. They said that you are crazy guys. It's never it can work. It won't work, and it's too complicated. It is actually, but we did our first docudrama project. It's called Bernstein, The Last Partisan. And it was like a huge project that it made like for 4 years, and it's broad. It's distributed to a lot of countries, from Australia to Europe and Japan and Asia, South Korea, and now it's came to USA and up to 6 languages. It's like very big project. And even this project made like a guerrilla style, and Yeah, and me and producer put our salaries to production because we have not enough money, and I wanted to make this. It's just, for example, one scene. It's partisan commander should to stand in front of soldiers and say some very excited text, and I really wanted that he been on the horse. And producer say, "Hey, he will just stand. We don't have horse. We don't have money for it." And this is day I said, "Okay, I give my salary. I want horse. I don't care." And yeah, and after was one more gun and one more Nazi and one more extras, and all my salary gone to this production.
So in other words, you basically, and I understand this completely because I'm still doing it, and my wife has, even though she came out of the film business, she does not. She's left it wisely because she never understood the complete lack of interest except to eat in one's salary, at least foolishly, because of course there are a lot of filmmakers who make lots and lots of money, but I find that I continue to pay for Nazis and horses and guns with salary. So Sharon, I'm afraid to say the proof is out there. I don't know. Anyway, but thank you for that. Roman, if you could just tell us what I understand you're saying you make films just for fun now, but that maybe passion isn't part of it. But I guess something that comes from Evo's film, 8 Stories That Haven't Changed the World, back to that title, like I'm working on a film right now about Elie Wiesel, speaking of people who tried to change the world, or in his estimation. And he said in his youth, he wanted to bring the Messiah, and that meant changing the world. And in his old age, he realized that to change the world, you can't change the world. And his hope became to change one person for at least for a few minutes of time that he would have with them. And he didn't see that as a lesser goal than bringing the Messiah. It was a different Messiah, really. And I think whether you're Truffaut or Scorsese or Claude Lanzmann, that I don't know. Do you feel? I asked the three of you. Do you feel like changing the world is a goal, a goal that's realistic in any way? And what is it? Is that why you make films? Whoever wants.
I can say that for sure. I mean, even I said it to you that I want to make films for fun now, but anyway, I don't see making movies with no I can say change the world, but to make something to the viewer. I mean, all of my movies for now, I really feel a pleasure that I can make movies and projects that can improve something, that can change some open minds, or look even for immigrants. If you can see in my movies, it's people can see immigrants in Israel at least on a really different way. It breaks stereotypes and more and more. And in every project I'm trying, this my goal. I feel comfortable with it. I'm trying anyway in any project to make, even if it's a small thing, but something that can change something to viewer and to a better side.
Thank you. Evo or Sharon, do you want to pick up the ball? Evo?
And thanks, Roman, for saying that, and Oren actually for mentioning this quote, because when it comes to changing the world and the reason for being a filmmaker, I actually realized a few years ago while having long conversations with a fellow filmmaker that I think one of the main reasons why I want to make movies is to have this hope that with a film, at least one person will feel less lonely for a second. And maybe that's why, there's a reason why marginalized people and minorities or people who are not entitled forever, since ever, were always better characters than entitled people. I mean, you can tell great stories about entitled people, but they better be dark comedies, like Succession. But I truly think now that I very rarely have a chance to look back at what interests me and what seems to be like maybe a thread in what I do, is this sensitivity that I think I took out from my upbringing in many countries and from my family. And from the various sort of different people that I was surrounded with in my life, which just made me curious about why not everyone can be happy, or at least have the same start and be treated equally. And so this is something that I think drives me, whether it's comedy or tragic comedy, which is probably my favorite genre, in the movies I want to make. So yeah, but Sharon?
I just want to say you wouldn't be Polish if you didn't love tragic comedy, because that is the essence of being Polish, I believe.
Wow. Okay, since I said that earlier, I would like to give you the equation of what I believe means changing the world from my little perspective, just to make a bit more sense of it. I think that on the one side, we work in a medium that's very powerful because it doesn't necessarily, as we see with documentaries oftentimes, but it can have access to a lot of people. And as all of you have said in one way or another, who and what we see on TV / on the computer / in series affects us, right? Roman said that. So changing the world has this like very heavy bearing thing, but I think that changing the world has very different layers to it. The way I speak about it, or what I feel like I can contribute, and that's very specific to my work, is that I have seen, at least with Displaced, that, Displaced is not an easy film, especially for a non-Jewish German audience, because I actually confront them in a very, in a very direct way about, not dealing with the past, or how they are not dealing with the past. It's just part of the film, right?
How do you do that?
Oh, there's a lot there. I mean, that would be describing the film, but it's conversations with friends who are not Jewish and Germans that I grew up with. It is also aesthetics that work at the end of the film. It's things that I say throughout the film. So, but very clearly, when you then, as a result of the film, get conversations going about that very topic, right? And you speak with a non-Jewish German audience, or right now the film was just released on TV, and you suddenly start getting emails from people saying, thank you very much, for either from the Jewish perspective saying, representing finally something that I felt, and people spill your guts out to you, which I'm very thankful about, or there's sort of a aha moment, an epiphany in terms of like, oh wow, this is how you feel. I think this is the power of filmmaking. So ultimately what I'm trying to say is that highlighting what is unsaid, making that visible, making the invisible visible, and making that experiential, through feeling and not cognitive. Because as we know, and maybe this is where I'm very much also a woman, and I believe in écriture féminine, a good story is very important, but how you come across and what emotions you actually rise is just as important, right? How empathic are you? So guilty as charged of trying to always bring that to the forefront, and really ultimately showing what is uncomfortable. This is the beauty of it, for me. And this already can change the world. And just to connect it to the Jewish topic, tikkun olam is something, repairing the world is something deeply Jewish. And at least in the way I was raised, this is something that was, this is something that's part of who I am. So I guess it's a mixture of all these aspects, the political desire, and yeah.
Thank you all. I know Elise is coming on, but I just wanted to say something myself about it, because I certainly began my filmmaking career. I wanted to be a social activist lawyer, but I realized that law was actually really boring. It's not everybody who represents the Chicago Seven and Daniel Berrigan and the rest of them. And and I realized I couldn't study that well, and so I went back to my true love, which was filmmaking. But and I did start with the belief that every film should be about people whose stories are not told and are not shared, and that alone, sharing the stories of one or two or three people who would never normally be on a television or film screen, was one way to, whether one changed the world or not, change that person's life. But I also heard a wonderful other story via Elie Wiesel, having to do with changing the world, and it's a story about it's a midrash about a man in Sodom, of Sodom and Gomorrah, who every day for years held a picket sign saying, change, become a better person. And he was utterly ignored, or she was utterly ignored for years and years and years. And a young child came up to her and said, why are you doing this? Why are you sitting here crying out for people to change? Everybody's ignoring you. And this, according to Elie Wiesel, he said, I'm sitting here not to change the world, which I want to change, but so that the world doesn't change me. And I'm wondering, I don't want to, we could go on with that, but which we can, or Elise will. I'm just curious whether your filmmaking has changed you, or whether you've stayed the same, and we can hold off on the answer to that. But for me, my filmmaking has been my education of making me very much who I am. I would otherwise be a nice Jewish boy stuck in a nice suburb in Massachusetts. who knew very little about the real world. And I still know very little about the real world, but I know more. And that has changed me.
Oren, I would like to jump off from that and have every one of you answer Oren's very brilliant and thoughtful question. And then unfortunately, we have to close, but this is not the end of our conversations, and it's not the end of the conversations that you will inspire through your films. Hopefully together, we'll have a chance to meet and continue. So please do answer. Have your films, or how have your films changed you? Roman?
How my films changed me? Actually, I didn't thought about it. I thought about how my films change others. Yeah, but me, it's a good question. Actually, I don't know. I think I every project changed me for sure, but I think like people that were around me as well, and every I don't know. I can't say something special or
Well, how did your
thing.
film
I think
change you?
every. Sorry.
How if you thought more about how your films changed others, please tell us that.
Yeah, it's you know, I have few for example, few first projects. It's documentary and fiction projects about immigrants in Israel, and it's changed a lot. It's changed, you know, it was a like successful project in Israel. And it was a lot of talks about it, and people that have, you know, that been, you know, nothing. I mean, in the bad words, to the society. Became people that society can look at them on other way, and the last social project that I did, it's called Generation 1.5 Generation. If you heard about it, Dor Echad V'Chetzi. It's about all the immigration from Soviet Union of 90s. It's a very big project. Like we did it for 3 years, and it was very. It was so many reactions to this project, and it was like Me Too style. It's a lot of people start to share their stories, and it was like a lot of people, like tons of people started to share their stories and to you know, to recognize and to find themselves. So it was a really like, for me it was a big pleasure to take part in kind of project that can change a lot of you know, things in a better ways, I hope. So, but I don't know if I will back to your questions about me. I don't know how it's changed me. Maybe when I've been like 70 or 80 one day, I can analyze it. But now I'm just going on this way, and yeah.
I don't know if I should jump in.
Please jump in, Evo.
But I think I'll just say that one of the, you know, biggest paradoxes of filmmaking is that it's a collaborative form of art. So on one hand, it makes it extremely expensive and difficult to prepare, but at the same time, it gives you the opportunity to spend the life collaborating with other talented filmmakers and artists, and actually learning a lot about the world just through the making of the film. Obviously, when you're a documentary filmmaker, you can learn so much from the people you meet, your characters, your protagonists, or the antagonists of your protagonists, etc. But I deeply believe that both the process and the topics that we as filmmakers take on is what builds us as humans and as artists. So to me, this is the most fascinating thing. And just one last thing, that actually this year I embarked slightly unexpectedly on an incredible journey with my upcoming feature documentary, which will be centered around schools, elementary schools, and how for 200 years now, the schooling system worldwide has not changed much from when the Prussians invented, the obligatory schooling. And I've been traveling around the world talking to 7, 12-year-olds, their parents and their teachers, and asking questions, what do you like and what don't you like about school? And I'm trying to create this humanistic sort of experience of school, which you will be surprised, no matter of the economical background or cultures, whether indigenous or developed countries, there's a lot in common in how a school is, and I think on a systematic level should change. So just wanted to say that there's probably years ahead of me of going around the world and talking to kids, which actually, I don't know if you've seen Come On and Joaquin Phoenix recently doing that. It was pretty great.
Evo, thank you. And Sharon?
Yep.
Sharon Khabib, the sweet one, but you're fine.
I think that every film that I've made, every topic I have tackled, I had an idea, and then what actually appeared in the film was a different reality. It became a mixture between what I had in my head and what the reality I saw and I was confronted with through my protagonists made me see. And in that, I have become every time a little smarter and a little richer through the worlds of my protagonists. And in that, every film has made me a little less shallow, I would say, and a little less and a little more complex in the vision of the world of the world that I have. Yeah.
You've tied it together, but basically you tied a lovely bow and not a knot, because it's time we can unpack this again, I hope, together in the future. We're really honored, Oren, Roman, Evo, and Sharon, that you're with us, that we've spoken as if we're friends around a table, though we're kind of certainly in different places. And I want to thank our technical team, Jakub and Aga, and all of you who have joined us this evening for this very special conversation. And I just want to, full disclosure, which I promised at the beginning, and I'm glad to include Sharon and Roman now in this relationship. Oren and I go back to a shared hometown, born in the same year. We were born in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois. Our families were very much connected, and here we are reconnecting again. So it's an honor and a pleasure. And Evo was one of the first students in the Loder Morasha school. And I don't think it's quite accidental, Evo, that you're exploring schools and how we can improve education, especially between experiential and academic. Wishing all of you much success as you have touched us this evening. And we look forward to viewing your films in the future. So good night. Thank you. For those of you who are starting your day, good morning. For those of you who are in the middle of the day, have a good afternoon. And we look forward to seeing you at our next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Nice to meet you
And
guys.
thank you to everyone who joined us. I don't seem to be able to say thank you and hi to everyone who's writing in the comments, but actually there's a lot of really great people that I've met in the past who are saying hi. So hi. Thank you.
Sorry we did not get to all the wonderful questions and comments, and so sorry we can't address. I'm sure there's lots of people making great films about Jewish life in Ukraine or about what's going on in Ukraine, and but I don't personally know what those are, and there's some other questions that we haven't addressed, so forgive us for that.
So what we will do, and we are sorry that we have to close without addressing more of the questions that people have shared, and we're grateful for that. We'll keep notes, and next time we meet, it'd be nice to meet during the Warsaw Jewish Film Festival again next year, and move on with our conversation. So, dobranoc, thank you, Laila Tov, and if not higher. May you all continue to show us pieces of the world that we don't know about, we should know about, and provoke us to think, and more than just think, to do, to act. So, thank you.
Thank you.